most of them.
Welcome to the Bracket Report, brought to you by Delphi Bracketology. I'm your host, Brian Tonsoni, and joining me today are senior editors Nikita Lear and Caden Gasser. Episode 2 of Season 4. We're going to talk all things bracket today. If you want to know more, go to our website, delphibracketology.com, or follow us on Twitter. The handle's at Delphi Brackets. We love to interact with our followers and our fans. We're based in the state of Indiana. TV show is coming from Indiana, so we're going to talk about the state of Indiana, the college basketball in the state of Indiana as part of our first segment. And Nikita, you got to start with the Purdue Boilermakers.
So Purdue is a 1 seed in our books right now. Their record is 15-2, which is pretty great, but they did just lose to Nebraska, which was a really rough win. Their quad ones are 6-2, so they're doing pretty good with a net of 3 as well.
The recent loss didn't drop them. They're still very much a 1 seed, if not the number 1 overall seed. The next team, the second best team in the state of Indiana, might be a surprise to some people, Caden.
Yeah, right now we have Butler as the second best team in the state of Indiana, but they started off the season pretty good, going 10-2 in the first 12 games, but they've been on a 1-4 losing streak. But on the plus side, their strength of schedule is pretty good. Their 22 strength schedule and 99 non-conference strength of schedule. The Bulldogs will play Xavier later on tonight. Hopefully they can pull that out. If they can't keep winning, they probably won't be in the bracket much longer.
Butler has just made our bracket. You could have them in or out. I'm going to talk a little bit about Indiana State. The Sycamores are off to a great start. They are a 12 seed right now. If they are the conference winner, the question is the Missouri Valley a two-bid conference? Drake and Indiana State are the favorites. Usually the team has to win the conference tournament, but Indiana State in the low 30s, high 20s in the net, they really win a lot of fun games for this season, and they're likely to sneak in even if they don't win their conference tournament. Nikita, Ball State Cardinals are another team that we're keeping an eye on.
So Ball State is 8-8. They're on a 6-game losing streak. They're not doing very good. They're definitely going to need to up their game to be able to keep progressing this year.
Another team on the rise is Evansville.
Evansville kind of started out like Butler, had a great beginning to the season, but they have had a 5-game losing streak since. Missouri Valley, they're 1-5 in the Missouri Valley Conference. Right now, they're tied for last place.
And another team with the winning record is up in Fort Wayne, Nikita.
So Purdue Fort Wayne, they are 13-5. They are on a 3-game losing streak, but they're doing pretty good. They started off strong this year, and they're definitely pushing through.
And then that leaves two teams. Two teams I enjoy. My favorite team, your Indiana Hoosiers. They have a good record, 12-5, but their net is not very good. Their net is 97, so they are not even under consideration for our bracket yet. They have a big opportunity on Tuesday night, depending on when you're watching this show, at home against the Purdue Boilermakers. Indiana needs to get a lot more quality wins to move up into consideration. And then the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in the first year under Coach Micah Shrewsbury, they're under 500. They have a couple nice wins. They're probably going to need to win the ACC tournament. That's going to be a tough one in year one of Coach Shrewsbury's tenure. We'll still root for all of those teams in the state of Indiana. And we start our meetings. We have a class now. We meet Tuesdays and Thursdays with our students in class. We also have our Tuesday meetings. And so we're starting to talk seeds, guys. And some teams are just very, very difficult to know where to put in our bracket. Nikita, which team is difficult for you?
For me, it'd be Seton Hall. They do have a 12-5 record, so their record is pretty strong, but their net is 66, which puts them kind of there at the bottom. Their strength of schedule being a 42, meaning they have a lot of decent teams to play. However, they do have a quad 3 loss, meaning they're not playing as strong as they could be playing.
Caden, what team gives you the most difficulty right now and where they should be on our seed lines 1 through 16?
Ole Miss has given me some real difficulties. Earlier we had them out, and now we have them in. They're really hard to place right now because they're starting out like Houston last year. They haven't played much. They haven't played nearly anybody. but they have a lot of good teams coming up to play. Big games going. Auburn twice this year, Mississippi State twice, Kentucky and Bama. This could be a good chance for them to power up those seed lines, and it could also make them fall down.
So for me, the difficult team to seed is Iowa State. The net ranking, the sorting metric of all metrics has Iowa State 9th in the country. But, boy, they haven't really played a whole lot of people. Their strength of schedule right now is 318th non-conference, 151 overall. And they just got their first big win over number 1 Houston, so that moves them back up. But a 9 overall ranking would be a 2 or a 3 seed. We have them at the 6 or 7 seed line at the time because they only have one quad 1 win, and the other wins in quad 2 aren't very good. Those are teams that some metrics say put them higher, some keep them low. And that's what we do all the time. We discuss these in our meetings about, comparing Iowa State and Mississippi State or Iowa State and Alabama, 2 teams that are really close in the net. Which team is better? Which team deserves a 3, 4, or 5 seed? Those are the conversations that we have on a daily basis with these 2 fine young students, and as well with we got about 30 people now in our club where we try to make sure we have the best bracket out there on DelphiBracketology.com. So stay with us here on the Bracket Report. We're going to talk to you about the top seeds and the bubble, the teams that are in and out, which is what we normally do here on the Bracket Report. Stay with us.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC. Local lives here.
Welcome back to the Bracket Report. I'm Brian Tonsoni with Nikita Lear and Caden Gasser. And everyone's always interested in the top 4 seeds because those are the best teams in our bracket. And so we'll go through them and we'll talk about a team that we like and throw out anything that you guys want to discuss here. But our number 1 seeds in this order, Purdue, Connecticut, North Carolina moves in, and Kansas. North Carolina moves in. Houston got beat. Our 2 seeds, and then I'll throw it over to you, Caden. Arizona, Houston, Wisconsin Badgers are a 2 seed. Tennessee. Your thoughts on some of those 8 teams in our top 2 seed line?
Top 2 seed line, I think Houston deserves to be at a 2 right now. They have played better teams this year, and they have lost to them right now, but they have proved it last year that they can beat teams, and they should be up there still right now.
What surprised me was North Carolina when Sunday or yesterday when I put this stuff together. We grab the bracket every Monday and Friday morning off of a website, warrennolan.com, the data, and then we sort it and we bring it to our team meetings. But we moved North Carolina up. They have 5 quad 1 wins and no losses outside of quad 1. And so they have been gaining a lot of steam and moving into that number 1. And as you said, Houston took 2 tough losses in a week. Remember, we said this last week, 1 loss doesn't mean you have to move down, and 1 win doesn't mean you have to move up. But it's the combination of those 2 things happening, move North Carolina in and Houston. Nikita, what do you see here on our top 2 seed line?
So for me, it's definitely going to be North Carolina as well. Just the fact that they're 3-0 on the road, which is definitely going to help them when it comes to tournament time because it shows that they're strong no matter where they're at. Also, like Mr. Tonsoni said that they have no losses outside of quad 1, showing they're also strong. With the 7 net as well, if they're just going to start moving up. Houston, even though they do have that 1 net, I agree with Caden on they need to be a 2 seed.
Caden, your Wisconsin Badgers, you didn't want to talk about your Badgers?
I'll give them a little talk, but they need to keep playing like they have been playing, keep putting up numbers. They're 4-3 in quad 1, but they got some big games coming up. Indiana, that's going to be a big one. That's
Friday, I believe.
That's for the Big Ten. Who's going to lead the Big Ten, basically? It's between Wisconsin, Indiana, and Purdue. Purdue has gotten sadly a little bit down with those 2 losses in the Big Ten, but they're still a number 1 seed. There's no doubt about it.
Wisconsin's best win is on the road against Michigan State, who's 22nd in the net. They've also beaten Marquette at home, 18. Those are 2 nice wins. They're going to need some more in order to stay at that 2 seed lines, but they're definitely a top 4 seed. So now we have seeds 3 and 4, Baylor, Memphis, Marquette, and Kentucky are 3 seed lines as of right now, and then Duke, Creighton, Auburn, and Dayton. Nikita, anything shocking there on our 3 and 4 seed lines?
So what shocks me is Memphis. Memphis is up there even though they have a 39 net. They also have no losses outside of quad 1, so that also helps them being strong, as well as they only have 1 loss on the road, once again going to help with the tournament. Their strength of schedule being a 74 is pretty decent. The biggest surprise for me is just their net.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that Memphis could have been a team that we mentioned about being tough to seed because their net is so high. But they have some nice wins. And one of the statistics we talked about last week's show, road wins. They are 5-1 on the road. And I think the committee really, really likes that. Now, what's going to hinder Memphis and maybe push them down a seed line or 2 is their conference. We lost Houston and Cincinnati to the Big 12. Those were games where you could get quality quad 1 wins. They may have maxed out. I think they have FAU, which is a quad 1 opportunity left on their schedule. But they are 5-0 in quad 2, 2-2, 7 quad 1 and 2 wins. That's why we have them moved up despite their net. Caden, anything that you see in the 3 and 4 seed line that you'd like to discuss?
Marquette kind of scares me right now. They have a very high strength of schedule, but they're also losing on the road consistently. Those have been against great teams, 3 and 4 in quad 1 and 1-1 in quad 2. Those have been against great teams. They haven't lost to a bad team yet, but they are scaring me with those 11-5 record. It's one of the lowest ones we have at the top of the bracket, and that could hurt them and put them down a little bit more.
So, Caden, you bring up a good point too, is the toughness of schedules. The Big East is going to be tough. Marquette's going to take on some losses. How do you compare that to a Memphis who's not in as tough a schedule, and so the overall 1-loss record may not be the same? But, yeah, they're that team that has taken on a few losses here recently. Where do they fall? I think you can see, depending on where you go for your bracket stuff, Marquette being a 3, 4, or even a 5 seed because of their overall record and their below 500 record in quad 1. As you mentioned, the negative road record is something Marquette. I enjoy watching Marquette basketball. I think they play good basketball. I think they're a good team. Duke is another one where sometimes I think I rank them a little bit higher because of name recognition. They are 0-2 in quad 2. I'm not sure. I think 4 seed is fine for them right now, but I worry sometimes about just the popularity of their name kind of influencing me a little bit. So those are our top 4 seeds. You can find that on bracketology.com. And now we're going to talk about that bubble. The bubble is teams that are in, our last 6 to 8 teams that are in, and all of the teams that are on our considered list. And we have close to 18, 19 teams that we're watching, and there are teams that are outside of the bubble that have good records and need a win or 2, like the Indiana Hoosiers. They're not on our considered list, but if they win tonight against Purdue, they move up very close to that bubble, that line of in or out. So we're going to talk about some bubble teams. We have a few questions. And first of all, guys, what's important for you when you look at these last few teams? What is the number one criteria you're going to look at to say this team's in and this team's out? Nikita, we'll start with you.
For me, it's definitely going to be their losses outside of quad 1 and 2, as well as their road. I just find their road wins and their losses being very important, as well as their net. If they're having a higher and higher net, it's very hard to put them in there over somebody with like a very low net.
I think what's the 77, 75 in the past years was the highest net. And that's what the Indiana fans get mad at me. Well, they're 12-5. Well, their net is 97. There's never been a team over 75, 77 that's been in, and only 2 teams in the net in the 70s. You got to have some good metrics as well as wins. Caden, what do you look at to separate those bubble teams for you?
There's really 3 things I look at. It's the quad 3 and 4 losses, it's the quad 1 wins, and it's your strength of schedule. Your strength of schedule to me is very important. It's who you play. Your quad 1 wins are very important. It's can you beat who you play, and your quad 3 and 4 losses are also very important.
Yeah, Rutgers was interesting a few years ago. They had a lot of losses, which we didn't have them in. They had those 3 quality quad one. They had 6 quad 1 wins.
Purdue.
So Rutgers was very negative in one of your statistics and very positive in the other. And when you have a committee of 12 or 13, 7 of them said put Rutgers in at least, and Rutgers got in where we thought, and we had Rutgers out because of their losses. For me, it's non-conference strength of schedule. You got to play people in the non-conference. You can't just play simple teams. So when I'm trying to decide or make my argument for a team being in or out, if you're 300 or higher in the ranking of non-conference schedule, I'm going to argue for that team to be out. So if you have a team on the bubble, in Iowa, Indiana, in the Big Ten, some other teams that are on that bubble right now, look at their strength of schedule. That to me is probably the number one thing. So that leads us to another conversation. Teams that are in our bracket that you really like and think these bubble teams deserve to be in there. Nikita, go ahead with yours.
I personally really like Michigan State with their 22 net and their 14 strength of schedule at 40 in the non-conference. Meaning they play a lot of good teams. They are 2-6 in quad 1, and they haven't won on the road, but they have a really hard strength of schedule, meaning they're going to be playing some really good teams.
You picked a great one, Nikita, there, because Bracketology Twitter is up in air about whether Michigan State should be in or not at a record of 10-7. 10-7 is not a good record, but when you break down their resume, they have a really good quality win, and they're 2-6. They have played tough teams. We basically go, you got to be 3 games or 4 games above 500 to be considered. We had them out when they were 9-7. As soon as they won another game to go 10-7, we put them back in. That's not a hard, fast rule for the NCAA tournament, but Michigan State is a team that is having a huge debate. And then not only that, we have them as a 9 seed. How high do you put them because their net is 22? They probably could be a 7 seed even, depending on some bracketologists. Great choice there. Gasser, which team that we have in that you like?
I like Boise State. Just going off my main rules, they don't have quad 3 and quad 4 losses. They have 3 quad 1 wins, and they have a great strength of schedule of 20 and a non-conference strength of schedule of 36. They have 3 quad 2 losses, but those I looked at them, and they could easily be moved up to quad 1 losses if they win a couple if the other teams win a couple games.
I think Boise State's one of those, again, that is heavy in debate. We have them in. A lot of bracketologists have them out. The Mountain West has a lot of competitive teams this year. New Mexico, Nevada, some other teams like that. Can they get those quality wins, those quad 1 wins that you look at in order to stay in? For me, it's Mississippi State in and out of the bracket. I think they play good basketball. I think they pass the eye test, but they have a quad 3 loss. They haven't won on the road yet. I think that's going to be important for Mississippi State to stay in. Let's go to a team that's out that you feel needs to be in, or a team that's in that we might want to kick out. Go ahead, Nikita.
So for me, it's going to be Northwestern. That one is really hard, though, because they are 12-4, but they have a 69 net. However, their strength of schedule is 46. So that one, for me, is really tough, but I feel like they could be out. They are the only team with a quad 4 loss, which really just hurts them. And other than that one's just a really tough one.
You guys are picking such good teams. This is why these guys are down here doing the show of all the students we have, because they really know what they're doing. Northwestern has some negative information, a net of 69. They have a quad 4 loss. They're 304, my strength of schedule number of 300. So they have 3 things going against them, but boy, they have some nice wins. Michigan State, Purdue, and so they look like the Rutgers of this year, where you might not want them in, but they have enough wins and opportunities in the Big Ten to sneak in. Who would be out for you, Caden?
Quickly, I have New Mexico going out. They have 1 quad 1 win, which most teams at that range have 2, 3, 4. And their strength of schedule is very high. They're at 170. Their normal and their non-conference strength of schedule is 300, which could be a downfall for them.
And that's that Boise State conference, too. That's going to be tough. I think that's a pretty good choice, too. 300 non-conference strength of schedule, so you're speaking my language when you kick them out. A tough one for me is Virginia Tech. And because of record, 10-6, 51 net, great strength of schedule. 3 quad 1 wins. It would be tough to kick them out, but I do think that they're probably the most questionable team besides your two awesome choices. So let's end our bubble talk here with who would you put in? And then we'll wrap up here in segment 2. Nikita, what team is out that you think is deserving to be in?
Just really quick, for me, it'd be Nevada. They are 14-2. They only have 2 losses overall. They do have a non-conference strength of schedule of 249, which is quite crappy. But with their quad 1 wins being 2-0, they have no losses outside of quad 2. I feel like they're just being really strong and playing good ball this year.
Good choice. Who you putting in?
I'm putting in Cincinnati. They're joining the Big 12, so they're going to play tougher competition. They don't have quad 3 or quad 4 losses, and right now their strength of schedule with the teams they played currently is at 91. They also have one of the best road records at the bottom of the list where we have looked, and the strength of schedule has also put them up because that is one of the best ones we have that are out right now.
And for me, it's probably Wake Forest, 12-4. They don't have a quad 1 win, but they have 5 quad 2 wins, so they're right on that borderline. They do have a road win and a net of 46. So those are our bubble teams in and out, and some of the decision kind of making criteria that we go through, we discuss, and then we take votes and ultimately end up with the decision of who is in and who is not in our bracket. After a short break, we'll come back and discuss the Big Ten. We'll share some games to watch and finish up this episode of the Bracket Report.
Ball here. Harris scores. With 19 seconds left.
Fake players, big boy. I'm telling you right now, that's awesome. I love it.
That's the finish. You get a layup taken and an and one.
Welcome back to the Bracket Report. I'm Brian Tonsoni, Nikita, and Caden, 2 awesome senior editors of Delphi Bracketology. And as you've seen this show, they are doing a great job of bringing you some bracket information. And we're in the state of Indiana. The Big Ten's important. We've already talked about a couple of teams, but we're going to go through the Big Ten. Purdue, obviously, a number 1 seed, absolutely dominant performance. I know they've lost a couple games on the road, have a tough game in Bloomington tonight. Even with the loss tonight, I think they stay number 1. We talked about Wisconsin 2 seed. You got to be happy with that.
Yeah, but they could possibly drop with how they're not playing amazing teams. But
they're playing good basketball. Illinois, a 5 seed. They've lost Terrence Shannon, one of their better players. They're 3-2. So that's an interesting. They got to get 2 resumes we got to look at before their superstar got in some trouble, and then afterwards, and then we have Michigan State, Northwestern, and Nebraska in. So we have 6 teams in the Big Ten. Michigan State a 9 seed, Northwestern a 10 seed, and Nebraska 11 seed. Northwestern and Nebraska have beaten Purdue. That's going to carry a lot of weight going forward. They need to keep getting as many wins as they possibly can, quad 1, road wins. Teams that are on the bubble, Minnesota, Iowa, Indiana, and Rutgers. Probably Iowa and Indiana have the best chances of making it based on their record. Iowa's at 48 in the net. Indiana has a good record. Their net has to improve. They got 3 quad 1 games in a row. Indiana has Purdue, at Wisconsin, at Illinois. If they can win a couple of those, that really moves Indiana into consideration. And then Michigan, Penn State, and Maryland are on the bottom. Any thoughts, Caden, about the Big Ten in general?
Indiana really could just slip in with winning the conference. They're, like I said earlier, basically tied with Wisconsin and Purdue. They play Purdue tonight, and then they play Wisconsin later this week. Yep. So this week is really big for Indiana. If they can win one of these games, it would be amazing for them. Just one.
Both Iowa and Indiana play Purdue. Purdue's on the road at Indiana tonight and at Iowa, and both Iowa and Indiana need big wins. And Purdue being at the top is going to get everyone's best, especially on the road. If Purdue wins those 2, boy, Purdue is going to be really solid at that number 1. Nikita, anything about the Big Ten that you want to share?
For me, we normally have about 6-7 teams that get into the NCAA tournament from Big Ten, and right now it's looking pretty good. We do have 6 teams in. I think once again that Indiana could move up into that possibly. They just need to keep playing and just keep really playing good ball.
So every week we like to end the bracket report with some games to watch. College basketball is fun. Remember that a win or a loss doesn't mean you automatically move up or automatically move down. It just improves your resume or it hurts your resume, and then we compare resumes. We're generally comparing anywhere from 4 to 8 teams in a general area, and then we get it down to one team over another if it's going to change from like the 2 seed line to the 3 seed line. So these games matter. But it's not a scoreboard like the NFL or Major League Baseball or the NBA where you automatically move up or down the standings with a win or a loss. Nikita, what games are you watching this week?
So for me, it's going to be Purdue IU tonight at 7 o'clock at IU. Both Tonsoni and I will both be there tonight. So definitely watch our page for some articles and some information on that. Also, it's going to be BYU and Texas Tech for me Saturday at 6 p.m. They're both very close to each other, and they both need some more strong wins, so it could battle out either way.
And I'll follow up on Nikita there. I've been pushing Delphi Bracketology.com all day, but we have some opportunities that some schools have helped us. Thanks to Purdue and IU for giving media credentials. We have 2 members of Bracketology going down. I also do a podcast for Indiana, so I will be in attendance as well. Just great opportunities. We do some very small capsule reports, nothing long, about a 30-second read just to recap games. You can look at that tonight. Nikita also has done some photography, and so there's some photo galleries there of the past games at Purdue. So if you're a basketball junkie, tune in to our page for some basic and simple information, not ESPN worthy, but good enough for what we do. Caden, who are you watching?
I'm watching Houston. They're going to play Texas Tech here soon. And Houston's coming off 2 big losses. Both teams are ranked. They're going against another ranked team. 3 losses in a row does not look good for them. They are a good team, but 3 losses is 3 losses. Then I have Wisconsin versus Indiana, Big Ten leaders right now. And this could set the stage for the Big Ten winner of the conference just this week. Indiana, Purdue, Wisconsin, Indiana. This could be very big.
Someone needs to knock off your Badgers. They're undefeated in the conference. I think everyone's 2 games behind right now, but Purdue, Indiana are tied, I think, at 4-2 or close to something like that. So that's interesting. For me, the games to watch, tune into the Big East. I have Creighton at UConn tomorrow, Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Big games. Those are quad 1 wins for each team, so the winner has a boost in its resume. The loser doesn't really get hurt. But, man, you have St. John's is good in that Big East Conference, and Villanova has played well. Last night, Marquette beat Villanova. Those games are really, really good games, and they're good bracket games as far as they're going to affect the bracket one way or the other. And the SEC, Alabama is one of those tough teams. They haven't had a lot of quality wins. They have a great net. They need some good wins. They're playing at Tennessee Saturday at 2 o'clock. Alabama needs this more than Tennessee. Always tough to win on the road in conference play. So, again, look at these top 25 games. Also, we encourage you to find some mid-major games. If you can watch the Indiana Sycamores, I know there are a lot, the Missouri Valley on ESPN+, you will enjoy the way they shoot the basketball and the way they play. But a lot of games will impact resumes. So I'm just going to pass it around, unplanned here. Final thoughts. We're in week 2 of the show. College basketball is going in full. Your thoughts, Caden, about what's going to happen here down the road?
I feel like a lot of teams are really going to disappoint us. Maybe my Badgers might disappoint us later on this season. But I feel like there's a lot of teams coming up and taking the spots, not giving us much of a choice, and just taking the spots and moving up bracket.
Overall, I agree. I think that the teams are just outshining themselves. Some are disappointing. Some are just really showing that they know how to play ball. It's going to be super hard. They're just taking their own spots, like Caden said. They aren't giving us an option.
Our job's difficult already because of the number of upsets, is my final thought. A lot of top teams getting beat. You've mentioned Houston, Caden. But the other day I thought there were like 8 upsets of seeds. The top 5 teams, 4 of them lost in one day this past week. So this is a very, very fun year for college basketball. Difficult year for the three of us and our committee when all these resumes get bunched together and are tight, but we'll try to do the best sorting it out for you. But this will do it for this episode of the Bracket Report. Keep in contact with us, Twitter at Delphi Brackets, and again, our website, delphibracketology.com, for all kinds of NCAA coverage. I'm Brian Tonsoni for Nikita Lear and Caden Gasser. We thank you for watching, and we hope your team gets those Quad 1 wins.
Throw it up for Tillman.
Whoa, my goodness. 122.60 for Penn. What a swim. Six of them.